Welcome to our channel, and today another story, another truth that cannot be ignored.
She watched him from her kitchen window, her heart pounding a furious rhythm against her ribs. He was there again, a tall, broad-shouldered man, his skin the color of rich, dark coffee, standing at the edge of her sparkling blue swimming pool. The sun caught the water, making it shimmer like 1,000 diamonds, but all she could see was him, a stranger, a black man, standing in her yard, on her property, looking at her pool as if he had every right to be there. Before we continue, please support our new channel and hit the subscribe button. We publish new stories daily. Don't let them go unheard. So, he wasn't doing anything wrong. Not really. He was just standing. But her mind raced, jumping to 1,000 different conclusions, each one more terrifying than the last. Who was he? What did he want? Her hand tightened around the handle of the porcelain mug she held, the warmth doing nothing to calm the chill of her fear. She knew she had to do something. She couldn't just let him stand there. This was her home, her sanctuary. She'd worked her entire life to get this house, this pool, this little slice of suburban heaven, and she wasn't about to let some stranger ruin it. Taking a deep breath that did little to steady her nerves, she strode out the back door and onto the manicured lawn. The scent of fresh-cut grass filled the air, a stark contrast to the tension she felt. "Excuse me," she said, her voice a little shakier than she would have liked. He didn't turn around. He just kept staring at the water, lost in his own world. "Excuse me," she said again, louder this time. Her voice rang with a sharpness she didn't intend, a mixture of fear and defiance. He finally turned, slowly, as if coming out of a deep thought. His eyes were a startling shade of hazel, and for a fleeting second, she was struck by how kind they looked. But she quickly pushed that thought away. Kindness had nothing to do with this. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice a low, smooth baritone. It was calm, composed, which only made her feel more on edge. "Actually, I think the question is, what can I help you with? This is my property. You're trespassing." A flicker of something. Was it sadness, regret? Crossed his face, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by that same calm composure. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to alarm you. I was just admiring the pool. Admiring it from your own property is one thing, but you're standing on my lawn. You can't just come on to other people's property. This is private property." And he started to walk away, a man defeated. But something inside her, a nasty, persistent little voice, wasn't satisfied. She didn't just want him to leave. She wanted him to understand. She wanted him to know that there were lines, boundaries, and that he had crossed one of them. She wanted him to know that she was in charge here, that this was her space. "You know," she called after him, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "People like you, they don't get to just walk onto someone's property like it's a public park. My husband and I worked too hard for this. This isn't for everyone." He stopped dead in his tracks. He didn't turn around, but she could feel his stillness, his silence, and it was more powerful than any argument. The air was thick with it, with the unspoken words hanging between them. Words that went beyond a simple misunderstanding about property lines. Words that were charged with a history she didn't even want to think about. Just as she was about to say something else, something even more regrettable, she heard a voice from behind her. "Dad?" The single word cut through the tension like a knife. It was her son, 8-year-old Leo, standing at the back door clutching a bright red kickball. His face was a mixture of confusion and concern, his gaze darting between her and the man she had just yelled at. The man slowly turned around, and she finally saw his face clearly, saw the way his eyes met her son's, and she saw the smile that spread across his lips, a smile so full of love and warmth it was like the sun coming out from behind a cloud. And then she saw her son's face, a mirror of that same joy, that same unconditional love. He dropped the kickball and ran, not to her, but to the man she had just accused of trespassing. He threw his arms around the man's legs, and the man bent down and wrapped him in a fierce, protective hug. She stood there, frozen in time, watching as her son, Leo, clung to the man's legs. Her carefully constructed world, the one she had so meticulously built brick by brick, was crumbling before her eyes. The man, still on his knees, held Leo tightly, his face buried in his boy's hair. He smelled of a mix of something clean and woodsy, a scent that was completely alien to her. The scene was beautiful and heartbreaking all at once, a tender moment between a father and a son that she, the mother, was completely outside of.
Then the man looked up, his hazel eyes meeting hers. There was no anger there, no "I told you so," just a deep, profound sadness. It was a look that said, "This is what you took from us. This is what we lost." A tidal wave of shame washed over her, chilling her far more than the fear she had felt just moments before. It was a shame so potent it made her feel physically ill. She couldn't tear her eyes away from his. In that moment, she saw not a stranger, not a threat, but a ghost from a past she had tried so hard to bury. A past she had convinced herself was better off forgotten. She knew she had to say something, to explain, to apologize, but the words were caught in her throat, a lump of guilt and regret making it impossible to speak. Finally, the man, still holding Leo, stood up. He was taller than she remembered, his shoulders even broader. "Hi, Sarah," he said, his voice quiet, almost a whisper. It was the first time in years she had heard her name spoken in his voice. "Marcus," she breathed, the name a rusty key turning in a long locked door. Leo, looking up at his mother's shocked face, pointed a small finger at the man. "Mom, this is Daddy! He's back! He's really, really back!" The man, Marcus, smiled, a pained, apologetic smile. "I know this is a lot, Sarah. I wasn't trying to cause any trouble. I needed to see him. I couldn't stay away anymore." He looked down at Leo, his expression softening into pure adoration. "I've missed you so much, buddy." Sarah's head was spinning. She felt like she was trapped in a dream, one of those surreal, nonsensical dreams where you try to run but your feet won't move. She looked from the man, Marcus, to her son, Leo, and back again. Marcus, with his dark skin and rich chocolate brown hair, and Leo, with his fair skin and sun-kissed blonde curls. They didn't look alike, not in the way people expect fathers and sons to look, but a shared smile, a specific way they'd tilted their heads, the deep, soulful look in their eyes. Those things were identical. The similarities were there, hidden in the small, subtle details that only a mother would notice. And seeing them now, it was as if she were seeing them for the first time. How did you find us?" she stammered, the words finally managing to escape her lips. I changed everything. My number, my email, my last name." The words trailed off. She knew how terrible she sounded, how utterly selfish and cruel. But she needed to understand. She had run away, and she had run far. Marcus's smile faded. "I'm a private investigator, Sarah. I have friends in places you wouldn't believe. It took me a long time, but I knew I'd find you eventually. I had to. I had to know if he was okay. He's so big. He's so beautiful, just like I knew he would be." Leo, completely unaware of the tension, was now tugging on Marcus's hand. "Daddy, can we go swimming? My pool is wonderful. Mommy says it's my pool. Can you come in? The innocence of his question was a dagger to her heart. The memory of her words, "This isn't for everyone," echoed in her mind, a cruel, bitter irony. She had denied this man, this wonderful man, the simple pleasure of sharing a moment with his son in a pool that she had been so quick to call her own.
Marcus looked at her, a question in his eyes. He wasn't asking for permission to use the pool. He was asking for permission to be a father. He was asking for permission to be a part of his son's life, a life that had been so unjustly taken from him. He was asking for a second chance. And she, in that moment, had to decide if she was brave enough to give it to him, if she was strong enough to face the consequences of her past and open the door to a future she had never imagined. The silence stretched between them, a heavy, suffocating blanket of unspoken history. Her mouth opened and closed, a silent fish out of water. The question in his eyes was a heavy weight, and the silence from her was a deafening roar. She looked at Marcus, then at Leo, then back to Marcus, her mind racing, replaying every moment that had led her to this exact, terrible spot on her perfect lawn. She remembered the day she had packed her bags, the day she had left him, a goodbye note on the kitchen counter and a packed suitcase in her car, the engine already running. She remembered the reason, the fear of what people would say, the fear of what her own family would do, the fear of a world that she was convinced would never accept a black father and a white mother. It was a cowardly act, a moment of weakness she had spent the last 8 years burying under a mountain of carefully crafted lies. And now, the past was standing right in front of her, holding her son's hand, asking her to be brave. She swallowed hard, the lump in her throat finally dislodging itself. "Leo," she said, her voice sounding foreign to her own ears, "go inside and get your swim trunks on, and get a pair for your dad." The last 2 words were a struggle, a confession, and a promise all at once. Leo's face lit up like a Christmas tree. "Really? Yay!" He was gone in a flash, the red kickball forgotten on the grass. Now it was just the 2 of them, standing in the sunlit yard, the air thick with everything they hadn't said for 8 years. "Why, Sarah?" Marcus asked, his voice low, his eyes never leaving hers. "Why did you run?" The question hung there, an accusation and a plea. She looked away, unable to meet his gaze. I was scared, Marcus, of everything, of my family, of what they would say, of what they would do. They never approved of us, you know that. They would have made our lives a living hell." "So you just left?" he asked, his voice laced with a pain so deep it made her flinch. "You just decided that was easier than fighting for our family, for our son?" A single tear escaped her eye, tracing a hot path down her cheek. "I thought it was the only way to protect him, to give him a normal life, a life without prejudice, without having to constantly explain why his dad was black and his mom was white. I thought I was doing the right thing. For him." Marcus sighed, a long, weary sound. He walked over to a patio chair and sat down, his broad shoulders slumped in defeat. "Sarah, you know it's really not normal? Growing up without a father. Waking up every morning and wondering where he is. I thought about you and Leo every single day. I looked for you for years. I lost jobs because I was so focused on finding you. I lost everything. And all this time, you were here, living this perfect life with this perfect pool. And you never once thought to call me, to tell me my son was okay?" His words were like a physical blow, each one a hammer strike to her heart. She wanted to argue, to defend herself, to say that her life wasn't perfect, that she had spent every single day regretting her decision. But she couldn't. His pain was too real, too raw. "I didn't think you would care," she whispered, the lie a bitter taste in her mouth. "I thought you'd be angry. I thought you'd moved on." Marcus shook his head, a mirthless laugh escaping his lips. "How could I move on, Sarah? You were my world. Leo was my future. You took both of them away from me." He paused, looking at her with an intensity that made her feel transparent, as if he could see every single lie she had ever told herself. "And you still haven't even apologized for what you said to me out here? You told me people like me don't get to use your pool. Did you really think I had forgotten what that meant? What that sounded like?" The shame washed over her again, a second wave crashing down. "I'm so sorry, Marcus. I was scared. I didn't know it was you. I'm just so sorry." Just then, Leo came running back outside, a pair of oversized swim trunks clutched in his hand. "Here, Daddy! I got the extra ones. Now we can go in." Marcus looked at Leo, then at the swim trunks, then back at Sarah. He saw the genuine remorse in her eyes, the devastation on her face, and a tiny bit of the anger and pain seemed to melt away, replaced by a deep, weary acceptance. "I'll go change," he said, taking the trunks from Leo's hand. He walked toward the back door, and for a moment she was afraid he was going to walk out of her life forever. But he stopped, and he turned, and he looked at her one last time. "Don't think this is over, Sarah. We have a lot of talking about, a lot of catching up to do." He gave her a small, tight smile that was full of 8 years of hurt and 8 years of hope. And then he disappeared inside. She stood there, alone on the lawn, the sun beating down on her face. The perfect, quiet life she had built was no longer quiet. It was about to be filled with the sound of a son's laughter and a father's voice. And she knew in that moment that no matter how difficult the conversations were going to be, no matter how much pain was still left to unpack, it was going to be 1,000 times better than the perfect, lonely silence she had left behind. The splash of water from the pool was the sound that brought her back to reality. Leo's high-pitched, joyous laughter mingled with a deeper, richer chuckle she hadn't heard in so long. She walked slowly to the edge of the pool, her feet barely making a sound on the smooth, warm concrete. She stood there for a moment, just watching them. Marcus was holding Leo, teaching him how to do a proper kick, his strong hands guiding the boy's little legs through the water. He was a natural. He was a father. And the sight of them together, so full of pure, unadulterated happiness, was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. The ache in her heart was still there, but it was different now. It was no longer the sharp, stabbing pain of regret. It was a dull, warm throb of something like hope. Marcus looked up and saw her standing there. His smile faded just a little, replaced by a questioning look, a look that said, "Are you ready to talk now?" She nodded, a single, decisive movement. She sat down on the edge of the pool, dipping her feet into the cool water. Leo, seeing her, let go of Marcus and swam over. "Mommy, you have to get in. The water is great." "I will in a minute, sweetie," she said, ruffling his wet hair. She looked at Marcus. "Leo, can you go practice your kicks at the other end of the pool for a little bit? Mommy and Daddy need to talk." Leo, sensing the seriousness in her voice, gave them a nod and dutifully paddled away. The silence that fell between them was heavy, but not in a bad way. It was a silence of anticipation, of all the words that had been building up for years finally about to be said. "I have to be honest with you, Sarah," Marcus said, his voice low and serious. "I spent so long being angry. So angry at you. I thought of 1,000 different things I would say to you if I ever found you. I imagined screaming at you, yelling about what you took from me. But then I saw Leo, and all of that just disappeared. Because seeing him, seeing how happy he is, seeing the amazing little boy you've raised, that's all that matters to me now.
He's so full of light, Sarah. You did that. You gave him that. Tears welled up in her eyes again. But I did it alone, Marcus. I deprived him of his father. I deprived you of your son. How can you just forgive me? Marcus shook his head. I don't know if I can. Not completely. Not yet. But I can try. We can try. What I said earlier about people like me not using your pool, it was a gut punch. It took me right back to every racist comment I've ever had thrown at me. But seeing you today, seeing the look on your face when you realized what you'd said, I know you've changed, Sarah. I know you're not the same person you were when we were young. I know you were scared. And maybe, just maybe, that fear was something I didn't fully understand at the time. We both made mistakes. I just want to know, what now? She looked at him, truly looked at him, and for the first time in years, she felt a sense of peace. I don't know, she said honestly, but I want to figure it out. I want you to be a part of his life, Marcus. I want him to know you, to love you. He's been asking about his dad for years, and I've been making up stories, little half-truths. But he deserves the real story. He deserves to know his father. Marcus smiled, a genuine, heartbreakingly beautiful smile that reached his eyes. He deserves a lot more than that, Sarah. He deserves a father who is there, who is present. And I am here. I am finally here. They sat in silence for a few more moments, the only sound the playful splashing of their son in the water. The sun was starting to set, casting long purple shadows across the lawn. The air was getting cooler, but she felt warmer than she had in a long, long time. The past was messy. The future was uncertain. But for the first time in years, she wasn't alone. They were in this together, two imperfect people finally ready to face the world and each other as a family. And that's the thing about our pasts, isn't it? They have a way of catching up to us, of showing up on our front lawns and forcing us to face the mistakes we thought we'd buried forever. But sometimes, when they do, they bring with them something beautiful, something we never dared to dream of. They bring with them the chance for a second chance, and that is a gift more precious than any perfect house, any sparkling pool, or any carefully constructed lie. So I want to know what you think. Have you ever had to face a mistake from your past? What happened? Did you get your second chance? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story touched you, if it made you think, then please like this video, subscribe to the channel for more stories, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes, the most beautiful stories are the ones we never expected.